Now, from bad policy to potential corruption, ahead of the House Oversight Committee's open hearing this week, probing allegations of influence peddling and bribery. One key witness who will not be there is the president's son, Hunter Biden, despite making this defiant statement on Capitol Hill back in December when he initially rejected a subpoena to appear behind closed doors for a sit-down interview.
I am here to testify at a public hearing today to answer any of the committee's legitimate questions. Republicans do not want an open process where Americans can see their tactics, expose their baseless inquiry, or hear what I have to say. What are they afraid of? I'm here. I'm ready.
Well, apparently not. In a letter sent to House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer on Wednesday, Hunter Biden's attorney Abby Lowell writes this, quote, "Your blatant planned for media event is not a proper proceeding, but an obvious attempt to throw a Hail Mary pass after the game has ended." One witness who says he will be at the hearing this Wednesday is Hunter Biden's former business associate, Tony Bobulinski, who said in a statement to Fox News, quote, "Now is the time to step up, Hunter, as you have said you want to do. Don't cower in the face of accountability and in this fight for truth and democracy." Join me now in this Sunday Morning Futures exclusive is House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer. Mr. Chairman, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. You're going forward with this hearing despite Hunter Biden saying he's not coming. Why?
Well, I think that we're at the point in the investigation where we need to hear the discrepancies. There were massive discrepancies between what three of Hunter Biden's business associates said pertaining to Hunter's involvement and pertaining to President Biden's involvement versus what Hunter testified. So this is an opportunity for Hunter to have the public hearing he wanted. The media grilled me, accused me of not wanting to have a public hearing. We want the public hearing. We actually need the public hearing because of the discrepancies. We want to iron out the discrepancies because somebody lied to Congress in their interviews and depositions. Either it was the three business partners or it was Hunter Biden. Now, I'm 99.9% sure I know who the answer to that is, but we're going to give Hunter Biden an opportunity. I'm not sure he won't show up, Maria. There have been two times where he showed up when he said he wasn't going to show up to have a publicity stunt with the mainstream media to attack me and say that we didn't want to have a transparent public hearing. Well, that's going to be this week, and I fully expect Hunter Biden to show up. If he does not show up, then it's not going to end well for the Bidens because we have three witnesses that are testifying that have already testified under oath to significantly different stories as to what exactly the Biden influence peddling schemes were. This is very serious because we're at the point now of criminal referrals.
Criminal referrals, meaning you are going to refer these people for criminal action. How many criminal referrals are you expecting to make?
Well, there are going to be multiple criminal referrals. Look, we've spent a year investigating this. We faced massive obstruction from the White House, from the Biden legal team, yet we've been able to get probably 80% of the information that we've requested. We've accumulated lots of evidence of wrongdoing from the 170 suspicious activity reports to the multiple shell companies that were used to launder the money and then send the 10 different Biden family members incremental payments. All the payments from Romania, from Kazakhstan, from Ukraine, from Russia that were sent to the Bidens, most of which happened during Joe Biden's tenure as Vice President of the United States. We've given the Bidens opportunities to explain what business they were actually in. And as of this point, I can't tell you a single legitimate business the Bidens had other than they were influence peddling. And I think most Americans would agree that we don't need the immediate family of our President of the United States profiting to the tune of tens of millions of dollars from our adversaries around the world. So we're at the point of holding people accountable for criminal wrongdoing, and I think we've already demonstrated several instances of criminal mischief by multiple members of the Biden family.
Well, look, the White House wants this impeachment inquiry shut down. They say after Mr. Smirnoff was indicted, it's clear that this whole thing is Russian disinformation. They're not buying it, and they want the coverage and the investigation stopped altogether. So tell us right here, right now, do you feel you have evidence to tell us, to share with us, that Joe Biden, President Biden, actually benefited from this influence peddling scheme that you're referring to?
Absolutely. Joe Biden got 2 payments. We've already disclosed that came from Jim Biden as a result of the influence peddling schemes. Now, the White House and the media try to claim those were loans. Okay, let's say they were loans. They weren't, but let's say they were, for the sake of argument. Jim Biden never could have paid that $250,000 back to Joe were it not for the influence peddling schemes. The one with AmeriCorps Health that netted $200,000 to Joe Biden, and the one from China that netted $40,000 to Joe Biden. So Joe Biden benefited to the tune of $250,000. We've proven that Joe Biden lied over a dozen times. He said he never met with any of these people that were wiring his family money. We've proven he met with just about every one of them. He either met with them for dinner or he spoke to them multiple times on the phone. That is a blatant lie by Joe Biden. Joe Biden said his family never got money from China. We've proven they got $8 million from China, from the Chinese Communist Party linked entity CEFC. The list goes on and on and on, Maria. There's a lot of evidence here. We heard from Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler, the IRS whistleblowers, that talked about the crimes they were wanting to charge the Bidens with. These are the top 2 IRS investigators in the International Tax Crimes Division. So the evidence is overwhelming. Just because the media and the White House want to indoctrinate America and say there's no evidence, that doesn't change the fact that there's a lot of evidence of criminal wrongdoing by the Biden family.
Congressman, we are trying to connect the dots here to the national security threat. We talk about and focus on national security largely on this program. And I know you're doing a whole of government investigation into the response to the aggression coming out of communist China. I'm wondering what Joe Biden did to actually get paid, if this story is true, and if, in fact, he's made policy decisions in response to accepting money from places like communist China. Is that part of your investigation? Tell me about this probe into the response to communist China.
China's our biggest threat. There's no question about that. I think even liberal Democrats would admit to that. Not only are they a national security threat, they're stealing our intellectual property, our patents, all of our research and development that American companies invest trillions of dollars in. China's stealing that. Joe Biden is not tough on China. In fact, I would go further. He has a China first, America last policy on a lot of things. Is this because his family took $8 million from China? We're already seeing the instance of Patrick Ho, who is the number 2 guy at CEFC, who is indicted and incarcerated in the Southern District of New York for bribing foreign officials. He paid Hunter Biden $1 million to be his lawyer. Hunter Biden wasn't even licensed to practice law in New York. Now he wants his money back. The Chinese, are they holding things over Joe Biden's head? This is serious national security concerns that we have. We found that Joe Biden hasn't been truthful about meeting with these people affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party that were paying his family millions of dollars. And we think that America's on the wrong path with respect to China policy. So our committee's going to delve into that. We're going to take information that we've learned, that people like Peter Schweitzer have uncovered, and we're going to try to go further and use our subpoena power to get results.
And when Joe Biden first started this presidency, he canceled the China Initiative, which was indicting people for stealing that intellectual property. Is that part of your investigation? Real quick, we got to jump.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Good to see you this morning, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer. We'll be right back.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.